Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Shouting from the Sidelines. You're with myself, Luke, and Nick again from Foot Tech. And today we're going to talk about the benefits of exposing your child to a multitude of sports, a variety of different sports, where obviously football's specific in what we do, but we've spent a lot of time over the last few years, and in particular a lot recently as well, looking at the benefits and the research around players, professional players in a variety of sports that did a variety of other sports when they were younger and how that helped them. So we want to talk to you a little bit about that today. Talk to you about how you can get your child involved in other sports, even if they're obsessed with one and don't want to do anything else, and just the benefits, why it's worth having a look at. So, Nick, let's get into it.
Let's go.
This links way back to when we started our speed training sessions, which we're going to come on to later, because we saw that some of the players at Foot Tech who were going on to bigger and better things, academies and higher level football, they seemed to move a lot better, didn't they?
Yep.
Than a lot of the others. And they were a little bit faster, they were a little bit more agile, better balance, the dodging skills were better, and we just found that those kids seemed to be the ones, above and beyond actually being good with the football at the feet, were the ones that were progressing.
Yeah, the good movers.
Exactly that, they could move better. So that took us down a bit of a rabbit hole in looking at things like SAQ training, speed, agility, quickness. We then started the speed training. Again, we'll come on to that in a second, but we saw the benefits of that. And then recently, in the last sort of 12 to 18 months, we did a lot more research, didn't we? In particular, reading about this sort of thing from people that have studied it and had good examples. So that links back to certainly a book I read during lockdown, during the first lockdown. So the question we wanted to ask was, what do the likes of Michael Jordan, Roger Federer, Tom Brady, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Wayne Rooney, players,
big names,
what do these guys all have in common, Nicholas?
They were all champions.
They were all champions, that's right. So they're top level athletes, top of their sports. They've won a lot. I mean, certainly looking at likes of Tom Brady and Roger Federer, you're talking about probably arguably the two greatest in their sport of all time.
Yeah.
But what people don't realise is that those names that I've mentioned, and hundreds if not thousands more, they didn't specialise in those sports when they were children. They played them, but they didn't specialise in them. And this book here, this is called the Athletic Skills Model. Very, very sciencey, very research based, and it can be hard going, but really, really interesting. And I'm just going to read off a couple of these names here, and I'll start with Roger Federer. Federer himself credits the range of sports he played as a child. He also played badminton and basketball for his hand-eye coordination. Most tennis prodigies, by contrast, play tennis at the exclusion of pretty much everything else. Federer played first tennis, then badminton, and back to tennis, and appreciated how certain skills translate from one sport to another. And he says, I'm in some ways a better tennis player now because of the badminton years, when I learned how to construct points and control space and chess-like strategy. I used to play a little chess too. The importance of footwork and the creative use of the hand and wrist for finesse shots. So that was him speaking in 2006. You've got Tom Brady, again, arguably the best American football player of all time. My parents always exposed us to different things, different sports. It was basketball when it was basketball season. It was baseball when it was baseball season. I didn't play football till I was a freshman in high school. A lot of soccer, and there were just some football camps. So he only played a little bit of American football when he was younger. But I just played in the neighbourhood in our street with all the kids that we grew up with. So you've got there two people, Jordan Spieth, an amazing golf player. He talks about the benefits of it. You've got Michael Jordan here that practiced baseball. Zlatan, who I mentioned, did taekwondo. Ruud van Nistelrooy, taekwondo and tennis. Gareth Bale played rugby, track and hockey. It just goes on and on and on. And in the book, it comes out with some statistics around Olympians and gold medal athletes and how they didn't specialise in these sports until they were a little bit older. So that got Nick and I talking, and then we've just gone down a bit of a rabbit hole, haven't we, with regards to it? And you wanted to talk about a book that you've been reading as well, didn't you, Nick? The How We Learn to Move.
Yes. So in there, I'll show you the book. Awesome book, really interesting, but it talks a lot in there about how there's lots of misconceptions about how experts perform and how we learn. So I think traditionally there's been an idea that you try to refine one technique until it's perfect, and then you can use that over and over and over again. But I think what people have found is that you don't ever use the same movement twice. It never exists. If you think about a game of football, if you're talking about passing, you'll never genuinely play the same pass twice. The ball will come to you in a slightly different way. You'll be stood in a slightly different position on the pitch. Your teammates will be in a slightly different position. Your opponents will be in a slightly different position. So the same skill, it doesn't exist twice. So the idea of trying to refine until you've got one skill perfect is a bit of a misconception, really. If you take another example, something like tennis, you might have someone who's just practicing one particular shot on one particular court. And then you might have another tennis player who is practicing a variety of different shots on hard courts, clay courts, grass courts, who's then playing in sun, wind, rain. When you put those two players in a match, the one who's had the more variance in their training is going to be able to perform better because they've got a wider range of movement. Like we said at the start about the speed training, we noticed that the better players were better movers. So if you go to one of those, Zlatan, Taekwondo, that will help him in his football because, as we've said, the ball can come to you in a variety of different angles and heights and speeds. So, practicing roundhouse kicks will give him some kind of advantages to deal with these awkward high balls coming to him and be able to perform some kind of volley that maybe other players won't be as readily able to do. So it completely changes how you understand how people learn to move, and so therefore how you coach to move. It's been shown that experts actually have more variance in their movement. It's not that they've refined and refined and refined to get rid of that variance, which a lot of traditional coaching believes and tries to do. It says, no, bend your knee more. No, you need to be at 45 degrees. We're not computers. We can't get to 45 degrees every time. And as I say, experts have been found to actually, sometimes they can do it at 42 degrees, 47 degrees, 44 degrees. So that is what skilled performance is. It's having that variability, which is pretty opposite to a lot of traditional coaching methods and thoughts. So it's really exciting stuff.
And that's not to say that someone's not going to get better and improve by doing, I don't know, in football terms, 100 shots at goal. But what we're saying is that
do them from a different place, have the ball starting in a different position, have sometimes the ball still, sometimes the ball moving,
Yeah, it's got to be that. And going back to Zlatan, you look at the way he controls the ball, particularly when he's 38 years old and he's still doing it now, but particularly in his younger days when it was like he was getting his ankle up to his shoulder to control balls out of the air and stuff. That was just ridiculous.
But that might be a part, again, why he's able to play so much older than other players have, because Taekwondo will be a lot to do with like flexibility and stuff. And again, all of this stuff about doing different sports and lots of different types of movements, it's been shown time and time again to help reduce injury. So again, if you're just doing the same thing over and over again, you're more likely to sustain injury.
And we'll come on to that. We'll talk about the risks of early specialising, because it is something that we talk to parents about, like, I've got him or her playing football 5, 6, 7 times a week, and we'll get on to the risks of that. So that's the why we're talking about. Nick, you're saying variability of movement is the reason why these top performers have gone on to be top of the game.
You want people to be able to deal with a wide range of situations in a game, because we said that they will never experience the same situation again. In tennis, the ball will always come to them slightly different. So there's no point just learning one way to hit a ball back that's always coming to you on the same speed, on the same angle. Like if you're using a tennis ball shooting machine and you've programmed it to come at, 87 miles an hour, because that's where Federer places his shots, you're only going to be learning the same thing over and over again. And in the game, it's not going to come in that same position time and time again.
And if we've got any golfers listening, that's one thing that we hear a lot, don't we, with regards to driving range. I've been trying to get into golf, and I'll just get to driving range for a few months, I'll be fine. But all I ever hear is, that's all right, but you need to get on the course, because that's when you play proper golf, and your variability of where the hills are, the greens are, the fairways and so on. You're never going to hit it. The driving ranges are perfect, aren't there? It's a nice bit of fake grass or whatever, and a tee, and off you go.
And how often do people go there and just the intention is straight and long? Every shot straight and long, every shot straight and long. And like you're saying, how often on a golf course do you just have to hit straight and long? Sometimes, but not every shot.
So, let's talk about the risks first. Then we'll talk about the obvious benefits of the variability stuff of multi-sport. Risks, and this is what I think some people miss, and it's certainly something that I missed. The risks are injuries for a start, and that people be saying, "Oh yeah, but these kids, they're 7, 8 years old, they barely get injured." The risks come later in life a lot of the time because they've only learnt to move in these certain ways. If they've only ever played football, the variability side of things is just on football, isn't it? And so the second that they need to move their bodies in a slightly different way, that could be the difference between pulling a hamstring and not. And so the risk are injuries longer term. What else?
Burnout, boredom. I mean, like we're saying, for all of this, there will be plenty of examples of professional footballers who have only just played football and they were obsessed with it and that's all they wanted to do. But we're saying there are plenty of examples of people who've done this as well and other things. And it's the same with the boredom thing. Some kids will just be obsessed and they will happily play football all day long, every day. But if you're at the point where, as a parent or a coach, you're having to try and encourage them to go training or saying, come on, I think you should go outside and do a bit of practice today or go and play, and they don't really want to, that's a huge, big warning sign and alarm bell to not make them do that, because as soon as it becomes not enjoyable, they're going to lose that passion for it. If you're not completely passionate about something, there's no way you're going to go on and be the best player you possibly can do. I think that's something, certainly that's really important with our first touch sessions and our youngest children. We see children come in there and they have, 3, 4, 5-year-olds. These same children are going to go home and, watch Peppa Pig and Paw Patrol. They are children. So you've got to be really careful how you act as a parent in that environment, because if everywhere else you're really happy and friendly and fun with your kids and you say, oh, I don't know, do you want to draw a picture today? And they say no. And you say, oh, that's fine. Do you want to play with some Lego? Oh, no, that's fine. But if it comes to football and you say, oh, do you want to come out and play some football? And they're like, no. And you say, no, come on, let's go play football for 10 minutes. Because in your head, you're thinking, I want them to get good at football. I want them to be the best they can be. And likewise, when you come to a session, if when they're playing, you're acting in a way which they don't normally see, which is, no, come on, try a bit harder. Come on, what are you doing there? Then in their mind, their children, they can't see the bigger picture. They're not saying, oh, Dad's trying to help me out here. He's trying to make me understand that football's important, and to get good, I need to take it serious and try harder. That's not what they see. They see football as a place where Dad goes a bit weird and starts telling me off and becomes a bit strict and a bit firm, and you will lose them instantly there. You've got to, it won't look like football. They might say, Dad, do you want to come and play football in the garden? And there might be a football involved, but they might also be playing on slides or something like that. Yeah. But in their head, that's football, and you've just got to let them run with it. And then eventually in time, they will start doing more realistic football things. But yeah, you've got to be so careful in how you speak to these young children and how you act with them, because your intentions are good and you are wanting them to fall in love with football and take football seriously and practice football and get really good at football. But they just want you to be their dad, and if you're nice to them everywhere else and you're a bit strict at football, they're going to put those two together and think, yeah, I don't like football. That's where Dad goes a bit funny.
The enjoyment thing as well. We played to an amateur level, and
we were good though.
We could have made it pretty bad. If
we didn't get seen.
If we'd have done multi-sport,
yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, exactly.
So what I think some mums and dads need to understand is that they look, if they're playing football 7 times a week, it's better than them sat at home doing nothing 7 times a week, of course. But if you're looking to sort of look at that overall well-being side of things for them, then the benefits of this far outweigh simply just hammering the football.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, we all go through those periods of time when nothing goes right. We're playing footy with in matches, in training, and every ball that we hit is going off here, there, and everywhere. We're not enjoying it. It's doing your head in.
That never happened to you.
No. And then I'm putting myself in your shoes. and then the worst thing was you had to then go to another training session the next day, or you're playing another match the next day, and in your head your confidence is low and it's just tough. So that enjoyment's just going to drop off the face of a cliff. And so imagine if we had something or they had something that was a bit of a release. So they played football a few times, but then on Thursday night they get to go do gymnastics and just jumping on trampolines and stuff like that. They don't have to think about football. They have a different friendship circle, and it might just refresh them a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that's massively, massively powerful. Having that sport that isn't serious. We're not saying don't take football serious. Of course, take it serious, enjoy it, love it, and try to get better at it. But then have that thing that is a bit of a release where it's not. They're not competing. They're not looking at getting into a team. It's just now just go to gymnastics or I go to basketball, whatever.
There's definitely a bigger thing there that you're touching on. It's we're always talking about how can we make them the best footballers ever, and we're saying multi-sports can help them become the best footballers ever, and that's great. And of course we're all we love that idea of kids going on to become professional and sign for academies and all this kind of thing, but we also know the reality, and the statistics are 0.1% or less or something of players who are already in academies will go on to play professional football. So most people who are coming and playing football, most children who are playing football aren't going to be professional. So we almost need to reframe what we're talking about and what we're thinking about here. Why then, or what then are these children getting from playing football if they're not going to become professional? You've talked about friendship circles. We've talked about the confidence they'll get just from playing. But from playing all of these different sports, they will have, if they've got a friendship circle at football and then they start doing tennis, they'll have a friendship circle there. If they start doing golf, they'll have a friendship circle there. It's not necessarily about trying to become the best sports person you can be. But then also in your wider everyday life, there's huge issues going on at the moment around mental health and well-being. And it's been shown that how you view yourself physically, so if you think, you are physically capable of doing things, running, jumping, hopping, skipping, then that gives you an overall bigger or better self-worth than you might otherwise have. You can get, there are different types of self-worth. You can have educational self-worth, so like how smart you think you are. You can have your relationship self-worth, so how you value your friendships and your family, and they all contribute to your overall self-concept and how you feel about yourself. But it's been proven and shown that the physical one is the most powerful. So if you're low on the other ones, but you're really got a high physical self-concept and self-worth, your overall well-being will be higher. Whereas you might have high ones in relationships, high ones in education, but low one in physical self-worth, and you won't have as high a one as you possibly could do with the physical one. So the more physically competent we make these children and the more variety of physical experiences they have, they're going to feel overall better about themselves generally in life, which is a hugely, hugely powerful thing.
Massively, and that's obviously linked to the benefits we're just going to come on to. And you told me before, when you were a teacher, the kids in your classroom that would be the ones confident enough just to put their hand up and have a go were the ones that generally were the better movers, the better sports kids, and so on.
Yeah.
Even the children that were what we class as intelligent and all that might not be confident to put the hand up, even if they knew the answer.
Yeah, definitely.
But the kids that were those, the active kids, the sporty kids that did everything, one of them's always good at everything, they'd stick their hand up.
They'd have a go. That's it. Yeah, so it's that overall self-confidence they've got in all aspects of life. They say the intelligent person in class wouldn't necessarily always even be confident to have a go there, and that's their domain. Those children certainly weren't confident to have a go when we went out and did PE or we went out and did something else. But the movers were always more confident in a lot of situations.
You touched on there making friends, obviously, as well. It's nice to put them out of the comfort zone in terms of, they've just got the footy mates and the mates at school, but if you can stick them into something else, there's all that stuff that just, as they get older, it's going to help them. And you said to yourself, that enjoyment factor, if that goes, then the chances of them even getting involved in sport as an adult, and what I mean by sport there is whether or not they decide to go to the gym or go for a run and keep fit, they might just think, you know what, they have such a bad association with sport in general that they just get fat and they're not bothered about looking after themselves.
That's the thing, like we said, with the youngest kids, and if parents are putting undue pressure from them from an early age, but they don't feel that pressure from you as parents in any other situation, then very quickly they're going to understand, oh yeah, sport is a place I don't want to go because my parents speak to me in a way that I don't like.
I've noticed it recently, and we've had a couple of examples of this working almost in reverse. So I coach a girl called Brooke, who's a very good footballer. She's been coming for one-to-ones with me for years. She's at York City, and as I said, comfortably one of the better players I work with. And she's gone to high school, and all of a sudden found herself playing for the year above at netball. And the netball teacher, the PE teacher, is all over her. Like, you know, from what Brooke's very humble about it, but I know exactly what's going on in the background. This teacher thinks she's brilliant, so they're after her. They're getting into train at 7 in the morning, stuff like that some days. And so I said to her, I know how much you love your football, Brooke, but in a funny kind of way, if you enjoy this netball stuff, that might be actually where you end up going with it. So this is the thing that we're saying to parents is, yeah, you know, football, brilliant, go as far as you can, but actually, if you start looking at these different sports, what benefits has football had that's going to help them in a netball situation, in a rugby situation, basketball, whatever? Because you might actually find that they've got a chance of going a bit further in these other sports and then carrying on with sport into adulthood. So we had a little boy called Ben years ago that was a very, very good player, was playing at Man City and so forth, doing so well. Went to high school and all of a sudden is turned into some sort of hockey prodigy. So it's like it does. So this is the thing for parents, is to get excited about that. Yeah, actually, you might find something that is a little bit of a release for them that helps their football, but actually then it's like, oh, actually, you know, I'm liking this and I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So
if you had a completely new activity that say you had 2 children and neither of them have played a completely random sport. I don't know. Chook ball is not a common sport. Some of them might play it in high school. But if you've got 2 kids and one of them has not played sport through their life and the other one has played a sport through their life, when they both enter that game of chook ball or whatever it is, some new sport, you'd expect the one who's had some kind of sporting physical activity background to take to it quicker, even though there's no direct link between the rules of the game and how you play the game, just because they've had that physical activity experience.
What on earth is chook ball?
Good game. Ask Ben Harding about chook ball. Good game. We'll get him on for a special edition to talk us through chook ball.
Fair enough, I'll have to Google that one. So this then linked to the stuff that we found, because this is not just we've read a book, read a couple of books, and right now we must go do all this. We said at the start of the podcast, we went to a couple of coaching courses and we were exposed to SAQ training, speed, agility, quickness, and a lot's moved on since that. But it just got us thinking, didn't it? Right, we need to get some of this stuff into foot tech, but not at the risk of them reducing their football time. So we started speed training, and just for parents at home that haven't seen what we do with that, think ladders, hurdles, dodgeball, moving in different directions, reaction
running,
work,
jumping, hopping, crawling, skipping, bouncing, lots of catching games. Yeah,
it's just all that stuff in a session. We have races. We have so much fun doing it, and the kids absolutely love it. We still don't really know what to call it, do we?
No.
The reason why we called it speed training, which what we'll come on to in a second, how can you get your child into different sports, was because we were saying to kids, look, you know, it's going to help you get fast, it's going to help you football. And it's like, all right, yeah. And they come and then they just fall in love with it because it's just such a laugh.
Yeah. It's like big PE lesson. They love it. They absolutely love it.
That's it. And so we've not just read all this and thought, all right, yeah, that sounds good. We've seen the benefits. You can see the differences in the kids at our football sessions that come to speed training. The way that they move, the way that they dodge, the way that how agile they are, how balanced they are. So we're coming at this from our own thoughts, our own views, our own eyes. We've seen it, and you know, long may that continue, because it's and I dare say as well, with these kids that are coming, all these benefits that we spoke about, they're getting them. A lot of them don't play together at foot tech in with the football. They're clearly physically getting better. Mentally, I don't think any of them leave without a smile on the face, because it's just so much fun what they're doing.
I think we've said it before. I'm sure I've said it in the post, but my girls still come to speed training, and they gave up the football sessions quite a while ago. Bella's restarted the football sessions more recently, but throughout that time she never ever wanted to stop the speed training. She absolutely loves it. Quite a lot of her school. I would say to parents, if you've got a child who maybe isn't interested in football or a traditional sport, this would be a way in to get them physically active and getting them to feel more confident about moving, which will then, I'm sure, open up doors to sports further down the line.
We've had that. We've had parents bring them, haven't they? We've said, look, they're not interested in anything. They just want to they come along and they just want to do this, and that's brilliant. But that release that they get as well, it's not competitive in terms of they're not training to be Olympians or anything. They're just coming and just moving, and it's brilliant to see. And that links back to this. So some of you will be listening to this and thinking, yeah, but my daughter, my son, they just want to play football. That's all they want to do. They're obsessed with it. If they're not playing it daily, they're on FIFA, playing it on the computer and reading about it or watching stuff on YouTube. And we get that, and that is tough. So just a few maybe little tips to help. If you get the benefits, if you're thinking, right, I've listened to this and I think, yeah, definitely I need to look at other sports for my child. Just some maybe things you can think about doing. So number one would be, if they've got friendship circles and some of the friends are doing other things, other sports, then maybe lean on that. Maybe lean on the fact that, yeah, but little Freddie's doing this. Why don't you go with Freddie and do and try that? That's an easy win. There might be after school clubs and stuff for doing different bits, martial arts, whatever. So if you've got any friends that are doing it, definitely have a look down that route. You've then got stuff like the examples that we gave earlier. So there's countless examples of footballers who have done multi-sport. We've mentioned Zlatan. We've mentioned the fact Rooney did boxing, didn't he? There's James Milner that was a cross-country champion, I believe. Gareth Bale with his rugby and hockey.
Loads.
You won't take you long to list out these names and give that to them and say, look, we're doing it
for your football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Say it's for your football. This is why we want to do this. It's going to help you with football, and it might just change something in the mindset, I guess. But then other things, and you might wade in on this, but things like, and we had a guy called Glenn Thurgood on the podcast during lockdown, and he was a strength coordinator for in the pro football game, the pro rugby game. Massive proponent of movement, and he says that he'll do stuff like play the floor is lava at home with his 4-year-old, and he sent me a video of it. Just set up obstacle courses and just make it a game. Even if they want to get the football out at the end, fine, but they have to do, I don't know, jump over the slide and then do 6 hops and then move to this direction, then go score a penalty. Anything like that you can do where there's variability of movement. They're having to move in different directions with different parts of the body, crawling, hopping, jumping, skipping, like we've said, and just make it a game. But then stuff like, can you get them to a trampoline park where you've got, there, we went to one on Sunday with my 2 kids, and I'm watching this stuff thinking they're in these bouncy castles and they're having to balance, they're having to climb, and all these little things like that they actually just turn around and think, what, this is just a lot of fun.
Think about how much fun they have at playgrounds. Movement is an enjoyable thing to do. They don't have to know that it's developmental or anything. Just take them somewhere to play, and they'll be getting a lot of it done. You've
got your soft plays, which I know some will wince when I say that, because it's it might be good for the physical health, but they might the physical movement, but they'll come out with coughs, colds, and everything else. But just anything like that where they are moving in different directions, and
climbing and things like that are brilliant and not done by a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly in the athletic skills model book, they talk a lot about cycling, getting out and getting on bike, because again, it's balance, it's different movement elements, it's just all these things that you probably take for granted. It's can you go out on a bike ride on Sunday morning if there's nothing going on? Can you go to a trampoline park? Can you go climbing instead? But ultimately, if you can get them into a different sport, and it might come when they're a bit older, then I don't think you'll be sad that you did it. I don't think your child will be mad at you for doing it in the long run. I think they'll thank you in the long run. Nick, that was all, unless you've got anything else to add.
No, I think we've covered it.
So I hope that's helped. And again, as always, guys, if you've got any questions for us on this, please let us know. It sounds daft coming from 2 people that have a football coaching school that were saying get involved in multi-sport, but we try to educate parents onto what's ultimately best for their child's physical and mental health, and we'd be lying if we said this wasn't the case. If anybody wants to get involved in speed training, again, just drop us an email, come down and you'll see yourself. It's just so much fun, and we have such a laugh, and the benefits are massive. But yeah, we hope you've enjoyed listening, guys, and we will see you next time.
See you later.